hardcore Top of the Pops. Now, if I were to mention Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks to you, the names mightn't mean an awful lot, but if I were to say that Phil Collins makes up the third member of the band, you've got it in one: Genesis. So while you're taking a look at this, I'm just going to nip inside and disturb them at lunch.
Great to meet you all collectively, because I know it's not often we can get you all together like this in the one bedroom.
on one bed. Yeah.
How does it feel to be back together again? It's about 4 years now.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, it was a fairly easy process. We live close, so I mean, it's not like we haven't seen each other. It wasn't sort of a 4-year gap, and then suddenly we bumped into each other in the street, you know.
High Street, yeah.
But it took place a little bit later than planned. But I mean, the process has been very enjoyable and very easy.
Is it a predetermined phone call, like let's get together?
We book a call in '91.
No, we kind of always planned. I mean, at the end of the last tour, we said let's aim to get together sort of sometime. Well, I think we aimed originally for 1990, sort of late 1990. In fact, it ended up being put back a few months because Mike and I were still involved in doing solo albums and things. So, so it was always planned. You know, it's how we've done it for many years now, right back since about 1978, and we've taken a year or two off to do things independent from the group, and then come back and made a group album. And so that's what we plan to do this time. And we'll probably go away with the same intentions after the end of this tour, assuming we can still talk to each other, you know. But I'm optimistic about that. I think, I mean, it's we never sort of see the band kind of stopping. It's not like kind of, you know, we don't sort of split up and then reform. Unless that gets us more press, of course, and then we'll do that, you know. No, it's just, it's an ongoing thing. We've done it like this for many years.
Do you find you're very different people to each other each time you come together?
I think it's surprising how naturally we all slip back into it. And one, you know, you come back in, I suppose, with subconsciously, I suppose, you know, evidence of what you've been doing since the last time. You know, you bring in new tools to play with, and you bring in new ideas that you don't talk about. You just do. I mean, obviously, we've all played and got better at doing whatever we do. You know, in between now and the last time, whether it's you know, singing or whatever. So I think it automatically falls back into place, and it's sort of scary, really, that it does, because, you know, although we do see each other, we haven't sat down in a room and played with each other since we wrote the Invisible Touch album, you know, which was '86, and you know, it happens so easily and so quickly that it sort of surprises you, and it's really a sort of exciting experience, really.
Disagreements, there must be lots of them.
There's not a lot of disagreements.
Well,
I mean, there are some.
I think we tend to avoid the disagreements some more, you know. When yeah, I mean, you can kind of see certain things, see it coming up. I mean, we've known each other for such a long time that kind of, and we used to, certainly in the early days, argue a lot. And I think you come up at a certain point, you know, there's certain things you know you're not going to get away with, you know, or if you feel you might be trying to push it just a little too far one way or something, I think you just find yourself backing off slightly. I mean, there's no real point in sort of having an argument you've had 100 times before. It's not going to prove anything, so you don't do it. And most of the time, I mean, you know, to be honest, you don't seem to be heading towards arguments most of the time. You know, you have a sort of common thing you seem to be aiming for most of the time.
A mutual sense of humour actually tends to deflate any kind of potential. You know, you can find yourself getting a little irritated or a little pompous or something, and someone will say something, and you laugh at it, you know, and I guess that just comes with getting old.
smoke to see her smiling through. I never thought so much could happen just to shoot me through. But I can dance, I can talk. The only thing about me is the way that I walk. I can dance, I can sing. I'm just standing here selling, oh, and checking everything's in place. Didn't have to know, looking on the perfect body with a perfect face.
Are Genesis still as popular today? Do you still think you have all your original fans still there with you?
We changed. I mean, you know, the last thing I would like to hear is people say, oh, Genesis are exactly the same as they were that many years ago, because that to me, certain fans would be happy saying that, but that to me, I think musically would be very dull for us to be in exactly the same area. I mean, you've got to move forward, and I think we tend to feel the only obligation we have is to ourselves, really. That's all you can do, is to write music and record music that excites us. And hopefully you figure that if you like it, then a fair amount of the fans who liked you before will like it. But really, to worry about that, I think a lot of people do, is a grave danger. I think you've got to be able to do what you feel comfortable doing.
Do you think the new fans have trouble distinguishing Genesis from Phil Collins? Because many people will say these days that one is the same as the other.
Well, I don't see it as being that. Obviously, the voice is this thing that threads through the both things. But I mean, apart from that, I think the stuff that I do on my own I'm glad is very different from the band. You know, I mean, one of the reviews in America said something about no horns. Fantastic. You know, well, that's great in a way, because what I do is totally different.
Yeah. Do you find that each of you goes through a period of well, loneliness would be the appropriate word after you break up after one of the Genesis projects?
Tremendously lonely.
But when you split and go back to the solo projects, particularly after, you know, an 18-month, 2-year bond.
I can hear you sort of across the valley. No, you mean miss each other, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
God. It kind of, no, what happens is, I mean, by the time you've done an album, written and recorded it and done various promotion and a tour, you've kind of had a good couple of years together. And you're not screaming to get out, but you're ready for a break. I think that's the great thing about what we do, which is to do Genesis, and then various projects outside Genesis. I mean, the idea to how we used to do it, which is to finish a tour after a year and a half together, and then go straight back into a new album. I think we'd all find it hard now, because it's we've done it for many years, and I think we need that change to sort of do other things. It keeps us fresh, I think.
See the face on the billboard, well, that man is me. touch that dial, 'cause I'm everywhere. And Jesus, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. I've been talking to Jesus all my life. Oh yes, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. Well, he's been telling me everything's gonna be alright. Won't find me practicing what I'm preaching. Won't find me making no sacrifice. But I can get you a pocket full of miracles. If you promise to be good, try to be nice. God will take good care of you. But just do as I say, don't do as I do. I'm counting my blessings, 'cause I found true happiness. 'Cause I'm getting richer day by day. You can find me in the phone book, just call my toll-free number. You can do it any way you want, just do it right away. Don't let me no doubt in your mind, you believe everything I'm saying. If you wanna get closer to him, get on your knees and start praying. 'Cause Jesus, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. I've been talking to Jesus all my life. Oh yes, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. Well, he's been telling me everything's gonna be alright. 'Cause Jesus, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. Oh yes, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. I've been talking to Jesus all my life, and he's been telling me everything's gonna be alright, alright. Jesus, he knows me. Jesus,
Were you all amazed at how the Americans took to Invisible Touch? I mean, it
Well,
won
we thought it
awards
was a good
left,
album,
right?
so we weren't amazed at anything. I mean, we were surprised that we never had it. We still haven't had a #1 album over there, but if that is a gauge of success, you know. I mean, Invisible Touch, the song, was our first #1 single. And so, you know, one is constantly, I think, amazed and surprised by the success, because you don't know if it's going to be successful. You do it for you know, we write for us, and then suddenly you have to, because that's the thing you do with records. Once you finish making them, you usually put them out, you know, and so you put them out and thinking, oh no, what are they going to think about this, you know. Suddenly the thing that you've been living with ends up reaching the public, and you don't know quite how they're going to react, because such a lot has gone on between, say, last album and this album. I mean, it's a world of dance music out there now. God knows what they're going to think of what we do, you know. God knows if the people that used to like us still do. Maybe they're all U2 fans, you know. Who knows? Maybe
Just-
people like both.
On that note, I mean, with the onslaught of the new U2 album, how do you feel about that? The competition?
I don't think it sort of really works like that, really. I mean, I think people like stuff, then they will you know, either buy both or neither. You know, I mean, it's how you sort of look at things, or on their own merits. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there are certain contacts, I suppose, between the fans of the band. But there's a lot of people who probably don't like both bands, just like one. You know, I think you know sometimes what it does is if you have if there's quite a bit out that people are excited about at the same time, it sort of reawakens everybody's interest in the whole music business. Actually, there's a lot of people touring next year, and it might get the whole touring thing back up again a bit. You know, there's been. I mean, I don't think rock music's been through a very exciting phase just recently. So maybe it's a good thing to have a lot of things coming out that excite people at the same time.
Kickstart.
Tell me about the world tour. Have you managed to plan dates and venues at this stage?
Pretty much. I mean, there's some loose ends still, I think. We're doing basically a stadium tour, which has been rehearsed in March, and tour is May till
Whenever.
till August. I mean, it's not. We're looking at about 60 shows at the moment, with the possibility of we discussed as an option to consider is to come back after the summer and do a theatre tour, which would be nice. And the
That'd be
British
fun,
Isles,
yeah.
But we're kind of trying to avoid committing to it now. So we haven't got this big sort of map planned out for Christmas, and depending on how we enjoy the first part of the tour and how we're feeling and other commitments, we'll decide then.
I think it's fair to say that the 3 ballads on the album are the finest that Genesis has ever done. Do you find yourself standing back and looking at something and saying that's the best thing we've done so far?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at the end of when you finish a project, you know, you feel this is the best we could do. This is you know, you stand behind each song and you say, would you change anything? No. It's only later on when you know, like maybe in a year or so's time, you look back and say, well, I probably would have changed that, or maybe I would have said that instead of this. But I personally, I think, you can only speak for, you know, we're old enough and ugly enough on our own to sort of not to know how we each feel separately. I mean, I think it's the best album we've done for a long time.
Does it ever occur to you that, well, like, do you ever think maybe this is the last album, maybe the next one won't be as good?
That's not an issue. I mean, there's no point
Yeah.
in worrying about that. I mean, it gets you nowhere, really.
I mean, no matter how you think about it, it'll end up being the next time we can, you know, no matter if you think, oh, the next album, well, that's going to be great, or the next album, I don't know if it's going to happen. You're going to go in, and it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. You know, it's not like, I wonder if Tony or Michael or I will come up with some songs good enough to, you know, to come in. You go in there with nothing, you know, and it's so haphazard that you would be surprised, you know. I mean, we're sort of trying to underplay how haphazard it is, you know. I mean, it is very... We don't really do much talking about it, to be honest. We talk about other things, you know, like central heating and plumbing. But, I mean, we talk, you know, we'll go in there and everybody turns on with a cup of tea, you know, turns on the instruments, and literally I will just start, you know, I'll put a drum machine pattern up that I've just done or has been in the machine for a bit, and that will just start, and eventually someone will start playing, and eventually it'll start sounding good, you know, something will happen. And then we record everything on DAT, you know, which is like small cassettes, and then we'll listen back to it, you know, and sometimes you think what was complete rubbish actually sounds quite good, and then you'll take that and then you'll start from there next time, and eventually it'll happen. And it's
actually much closer to how jazz goes. The jazz goes.
I was going to say that earlier, yeah, it is. I mean, it's nothing to do with jazz, of course, but it's the same thing. It's exactly the same. And
the only difference is they put out the whole thing.
yeah,
They keep all the bad bits, you know what I mean?
Well, you're out of a winner here. It's been great talking to the three of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the key to my survival
They make it very clear they've got no room for ravers.